What is it? It's Fusilli
Grind.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the show. It's nice to have you back. I hope you're doing well. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. I don't know about the rest of you all, but I'm sick of waiting for this New Balance video to come out. We need to start this conversation right now. We have enough evidence to go off of. It's become clear to me as we hurtle toward November 2024. We've got what looks to be a 4-horse race. Now, there's no better way to get into this than to have me walk you all through it with one of my highly polished, corporatized PowerPoint presentations. And this is no different. In fact, this is different. This is a Google slide deck because it's Fusilli grind, baby. This is low stakes. Right off the top, I want to address this because if you're like me, you don't really care that much about SOTY, you don't care that much about Thrasher Skater of the Year. At the end of the day, it's just another award decided on by a committee. And the powers that be at Thrasher, I don't know how big the committee is, how big the group is, if it's just Mike Burnett. It seemed like when Jake Phelps was the previous editor-in-chief of Thrasher before he passed away, it seemed like he was just kind of choosing SOTY by the seat of his pants. Maybe towards the end it got a little bit more politicized. You know, they started to have people vote, even though the vote doesn't count for anything, just to run some web traffic around the year end, hopefully boost some ad sales. Think about how people talk about the Oscars. They're all like, oh yeah, you know, the movies that got the Oscars, they're okay, but, you know, it's really more political who gets the Oscars, and it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, and yada, yada, yada. But we all do still think about these things a little bit and hold them in high regard. SOTY's no different. So you have to think about the incentives and the relationships between each skater and the publication that gives the award. Who's ponying up the most content, all this and that. It seems like now you have to really go make a big pilgrimage out to San Francisco and do something legendary at a legendary spot to even be considered, which is kind of interesting, but I see why they do it. It's Thrasher's way of keeping things core and keeping things local in their area. I kind of agree, at least with that part of the ethos, a little bit. I think last year when they gave it to Miles Silvas, maybe it was a little overwrought, but maybe they just leaned into it because he's a Bay Area guy as well. Anyway, I think if Jake Phelps were still around, Gabriel Summers would be much more at the forefront of the conversation. Gabriel Summers definitely had the craziest part, widest array of crazy tricks, tech, big, scary, death-defying. I think Jake Phelps, where he's still alive, really would have kind of gone for this kind of guy. Anyway, as it stands, I don't think Gabriel Summers, love him or hate him, is still in the conversation. I love him, by the way, for what it's worth. I think you and I all know kind of who's shaking out to be the real top contenders at the forefront at the end of this year. Here's what you all came for. The Thrasher Mag SOTY 2024 Final Four, as brought to you by Fusilli Grind. On the left side of the bracket, we've got sort of more of the ledgelord, powerful tech god type archetypes, and then on the right side of the bracket, we've got sort of more of the polished, modern ATV devouring type of guy. And I know that, you know, even in these subdivisions, each of these four guys is very different from one another. But I think this is it. I think these are the four guys. And, you know, I keep up. I read Thrasher. Thank you. I have to shout out thank you to my beautiful wife. When she was still my girlfriend, she signed me up for a Thrasher magazine subscription, and she keeps renewing it. So I've got all of these covers in print. Thank you, baby. And while Thrasher still tends to do stuff that's totally cringe and piss us all off, it's really the only game in town. So it's all we have to look at, really, in terms of print skateboard media. But what's nice about it is you get to see photos before the video comes out, usually. So that's kind of helpful when you're in the position that we are right now, waiting for stuff to come out, waiting for example, Elijah Burrell's footage to come out, waiting for Jamie Foy's and Thiago Lemos parts in the New Balance video to come out, and waiting to see if there's anything else with Antonio coming out. We obviously know there's more stuff with at least 3 of these 4 guys. I've heard murmurings there's more stuff coming from Antonio as well before the end of the year. So just get ready to see a lot of skateboarding happening. Let's go around the horn real quick and talk about these guys individually for a second. Antonio, great part in the Nike video, really nice. And then we sort of got the sloppy seconds in the hard body OD video, still good. Little sprinklings here and there, some footage in the Yalta Dancers CPH Nike promo that we watched on the show with Willie. So Antonio, strong showing, especially for a guy whose footage is always more curated, a little bit more sparse. It's nice. It's always a treat to see Antonio. I think he handles the output of his footage pretty well. So I like Antonio as a contender, but I think compared to these other 3 guys, he's not really on the level as much, I think, as somebody who's going to be considered, especially with Tyshawn winning so much in recent memory. It's just not, it doesn't seem like it's his time, even though I think we all wish it would, right? I think the greater Fusilli grind audience, probably big Antonio fans among you. I know that there are, because of the chirping in the comments, which, by the way, love the chirping in the comments. Love you guys. Shout out Fusillionaires. All right, next up, Jamie Foy. I don't know what to say about Jamie Foy I haven't already said. The Jamie Foy scenario where he wins SOTY 2024, to me, is just kind of boring. I hate the fact that Tyshawn won it again. I mean, you can argue whether or not he deserves it. But just the optics of this guy's so good, he won it again. I just think that that's in danger of becoming a bit of a trope. If they gave it to Jamie Foy again, it would be just like, this is just what we do now. It's like the Bush political dynasty. Anyway, so Jamie Foy, interested to see what he comes out with in the New Balance video. I think he spread himself a little bit thin this year, especially that the Dickies part. There was some filler in there. There was some cool stuff, but it was mostly my eyes kind of glazed over for a lot of it. He, of course, he did some mind-boggling rails and feats of strength and whatever, which was cool. But there was just a lot of fluff in there, I thought. So obviously this New Balance part's going to be good. New Balance has given him the dough, so he's going to put on. I just think it would be boring to see him win again. Elijah Burrell, who knows, right? I mean, we've seen photos. We know something's coming. Is it going to stack up? I don't know. He's sort of enshrouded himself in so much mystery that it's hard to tell what's going to happen. So we all wait with bated breath. I'm worried that it could be a letdown. It's almost like the Dickies honeymoon video. We've just been waiting and waiting, and it's like, what does he really have in the tank? We know he's got some stuff, but is it going to be any crazier than Brandon Burley's part that he put out this year? Elijah Burley, I don't know. So he's the real wild card. He could really do something, because I know he's very talented. So he could really do something, but I just don't know. I'm not sure. And finally we have Thiago Lemos, who I wasn't really considering until until this cover came out a couple months ago. The cover of the Switchback Nose Blunt. He got the cover doing the Switchback Nose Blunt at the Bay Blocks. So when this came through the mail slot, I said, oh, Thiago's making a SOTY run. Thiago's a contender already, just based off of this photograph alone. I hadn't seen anything else really from him that I know of this year. Correct me if anything came out before that Pekka Lovas part, which I'll talk about in a second. But I saw this and I said, oh, I had not considered this, because before I was saying it's going to be Foy or Burl and like maybe Antonio's for a stretch. And then I saw this and I said, it's going down. And then shortly thereafter that, we saw the Pekka part, the Pekka Lovas part, where it's just Thiago and Pekka in Oslo, just going on a rampage. Beautiful clips, beautiful footage. Really impressive stuff. No filler, in my opinion. And I was perusing on Slap a little bit, and I saw people talking about this his part, City Soldier part, I believe it's called. Really good. And Pekka said, oh, none of this stuff is throwaway from New Balance. This is all stuff that we just filmed together. So I thought that was very cool. If you know Fusilli Grind, I love Scandinavians of all description, but we love Pekka. In fact, the first ever episode of Fusilli Grind was a Pekka Lovas edit in Oslo. So just cool, and a respectable way to put out a really heavy part, I think, is to just film it all in your city, all in your backyard. It probably, I imagine with the way that the public transport is out there in Norway that, Thiago was able to get to all those spots and get home, in time for dinner. So pretty cool, pretty nice part. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. And if that's kind of the one bulk of his footage and the rest is going to be in this New Balance video, a lot's going to hinge, I think, on his performance in the New Balance video. However, thank you again to my beautiful wife for the Thrasher subscription. In the most recent issue of Thrasher, with Jamie Foy on the cover, I'll put up the unmirrored version of this photo on the screen in post so you guys can see it. But that's Thiago switch backside tail sliding the UC Irvine Hubba, another legendary spot. Really cool, impressive ledge trick on a legendary ledge. That's another really heavy trick that we've yet to see, come out as a piece of a finished product that we'll see, I assume, in that New Balance video. I don't think he's got anything else coming, but you never know. It's SOTY season. It's arduous. So I think that, of these four, if you were to really run the bracket out, you would have Thiago beating out Antonio and Foy beating Burl, as I see it right now, as I feel it coming through the ether. And who's gonna win of those two guys? I don't know. I'd like to see Thiago. I think all of us would, as the Fusilionaires we are. It'd be great to see another international SOTY. I believe he'd be the second Brazilian SOTY after Bob Burnquist. Anyway, the way that I see it, it all comes down to a very small committee of people who are going to decide the fate of one of these four guys. I'm pretty sure of it. So anyway, let me know who you want. Let me know who you want in the comments. Maybe I'm leaving somebody out entirely. I don't think I am. I think I've got a pretty good finger on the pulse. Even though I spend most of my time watching Scandinavians, I know what's going on in the US as well. So, good night, everybody. I love you. Chat soon.